Welcome to Big Butts No Lies. I'm Mavi, your go to guide for everything plastic surgery. With 18 years in the industry working alongside top board certified plastic surgeons, I know what really goes down: the good, the bad, and the botched. Now I work for you, bringing you real, unbiased info to help you make the best choices for your dream look. Whether you're going for subtle enhancements or a full on transformation, I'm here to give you the facts, the tips, and the confidence to navigate your surgery journey. Let's get into it. Should be fun. Hey guys, do I have the show for you today? I am so excited about my guest, and I know you will be too once you get to hear everything that we're talking about today. I have the very special Dr. Nicholas Howland, a fellow podcaster and board certified plastic surgeon, on the show today. Hi, Dr. Howland. Thank you for being on the show.
Hey, Mavi, thanks for having me. We've been trying to get this for a while now.
I know, right? Hey, you know what? You and I have been competing for that number three spot up there on the charts.
Oh, sure. I didn't even know that. So,
Yes, yeah, you and I. It's your number three, number four, number three, number four, and we're battling it out.
I love it. Who's number one and two? We got to kick them off.
Dr. Yoon, he's a hard one.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can't get him off. And the second one is the plastic surgery residence show.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Yeah. So I'm so excited to have you on the show today. And I have my little notes here because you have a lot to talk about. And you know what I
I'm all
think?
over the place.
Yeah, I love actually one of the top things that I have here is I want to talk about how it is to be multifaceted and being a plastic surgeon, but also have all of these other interests because I know about your upcoming Writers Island, and I'm like, this is so exciting and so interesting. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, that kind of came out of left field this year, actually. I have been trying to write a book for the last 3 years, and I just have never found the time to actually like sit down and do it. And I had a buddy who even stepped in at one point. He was going to help me ghostwrite this book, and we got to a point where he's like, "Dude, like, you gotta, you're the weak link here. You've got to sit down. You've got to get some of this stuff done." And it just never ever happened. Um, and I had a close friend of mine who had published a book, and I loved the way that she marketed it. I loved how it was published. And, I asked her the process, and she's like, "Oh, it's great. Like, I have this publisher. She takes you to a private island, and and you're there for a week with her, and most of her authors write their entire book in a week. And they do everything. They'll publish it, they edit it, distribute and market." And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is exactly what I need. Just like private time focused on nothing but this book. Um, and so I reached out to this publisher, and this was in January this year. And she said, "Great, like we leave in 2 weeks." I said, "Oh, that doesn't work for me with my schedule." And she said, "Well, that's the only retreat I'm doing this year. I do have one out of the box option." And I said, "Okay, well, what is that?" And she says, "Well, I've been doing this for several years now. My process is very popular, and they've optioned this into a TV show. And so in June, they're going to come film 14 other authors on this island who are all going through the book writing process." And she said, "I have 14 authors. They're all women. I could really use a male author to come out on this island." And so that was it. I signed up, spent a week on an island with 14 women and a reality TV show, which was not at all the normal type of reality TV show you would see. It was very unscripted, drama free, real life, and everybody was writing their stories on this podcast. And I got most of the book done while I was on the island.
That is so cool. What's your book about?
So this is the best part. It has nothing to do with plastic surgery. um, my book it's essentially a memoir. And so my story is a little bit unique. I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah. Was born into a Mormon family, so part of the LDS Church, and that was a big part of my background and culture from the time I was a young kid. I spent 2 years serving a church mission to Russia, um, and then when I came home, um, over several years, I was excommunicated from the Mormon Church not once but twice. Um, so I got excommunicated once, took all the steps to get back in, get rebaptized into this faith and into this church, and then was excommunicated a second time. Um, and so what's interesting is in that process, I didn't realize until I wrote this book what two excommunications had really done to my own self-worth. Um, and a big part of writing this book has just been this very cathartic experience of realizing um, that self-love was kind of always within me the whole time. I think, after that second excommunication, I went through about 7 years of pretty dark atheist space and just didn't really believe in anything. Um, and I've gotten to a place now in the last 4 years or so where I really have figured me out and figured out how to love me. And so the book is really for anybody who's ever felt abandoned by God, they felt abandoned by their community or their spouse or anybody, and has struggled with their own self worth in that abandonment. And so I hope that it connects with not just people who understand the Mormon culture, but really any experience like that where they have felt abandoned.
Wow, I am excited to read that whenever it
Oh,
comes
thank you.
out. Please do some promo so we can read it because that is super interesting. On this show, we always talk about the self-love journey and finding yourself after your surgery and different things that happen after your plastic surgery. Yours obviously isn't in the same realm, but it's still in that same kind of coming back to you.
Yeah, it's, I would say the experiences that I've had and then writing this book have really shaped. Yes, they are not about plastic surgery, but those experiences have shaped who I am as a surgeon and how I approach my patients. Um, One of the things that I constantly tell my patients is that plastic surgery will not change you. Only you can change you. Um, and that's one of the key components of this book is uh, we talk about self-love all the time, right? You open any podcast that you want, somebody's probably talking about self-love. And the problem is we constantly try to outsource it. We try to outsource it to God or Jesus or this religion, this breathwork group, that yoga class. Like something outside of me will help me figure out self-love. And it's self-love. Like it should come from nobody else but you. And it's all internal. And I think um, that's one of the key messages that I really try to sit down with every single one of my patients and help them understand is plastic surgery can help. It can help you see on the outside how you feel on the inside. But if you're not healed on the inside, it's not something that's going to do that.
Absolutely. We talk about that on the show all the time. And I'm sure you, being a body contouring after weight loss expert, you have a lot of these conversations in your office. Tell my girls about the slippery slope of looking for perfection when nobody's perfect. Some of these pictures you're seeing online are edited. They
Yeah,
really don't look like that.
absolutely.
So I want to touch a little bit on your podcaster journey. How
Yeah.
has that been for you? I know you've been podcasting for a couple of years now. How
Yeah.
has podcasting helped you in your practice, in your journey?
Oh, I think for me it has. It's funny because you talk about being the third spot. I don't think I've ever looked at my analytics, and that's not. It's not to say I don't care, And I think it's important as a podcaster to know kind of how your show is doing. Um, but for me, this was very much it evolved too. Like the first idea for the podcast came in a conversation that I had with a patient. Um, she had had 4 rounds of skin removal after losing 200 pounds. Um, and she was still struggling. She was like, I look better than I ever have, and I still struggle with my self image, and I'm still struggling in my marriage. And she couldn't really reconcile those two things. And it's such a common thing that happens in weight loss patients specifically, and in just any body contouring patient. And so I said, man, we should really talk about this. Let's do an Instagram live, or let's do something. And it turned into a podcast. And at first, I really wanted my podcast to be plastic surgery related, but I wanted to share the human side of it. Like, did it change your life or did it not? And I wanted people who felt like it didn't change their life to come on. Um, and the first probably 15, 20 episodes are really mostly patients of mine, and they talk about their experience. But what started to happen and that changed the podcast is people really just started sharing their story. And it could be around plastic surgery or could have nothing to do with plastic surgery, but it was their story. And I think there's a lot of power in letting people come and share their story. Um, and so for me, it's like therapy. Like, I get to go sit down with patients, friends, whoever, and just give them a place where they can talk and share their story. And it's beautiful. I see people literally come up with some life recognitions live on the show while we're talking. Um, and my life feels changed every time I get to go and record and sit down with people and hear them.
I love it. I love podcasting. I think it's amazing. It's one of the things that has really helped me in my personal growth of just fighting through imposter syndrome, fighting through all of these things to even put myself out there to do podcasting. So I totally understand just the power behind it. It's amazing. One of the things that I have, so we talked a little bit about you, but what we talk about on this show is plastic surgery and the importance of safety in plastic surgery. So,
Yes.
one of the things that I have on here, not just safety, but plastic surgery in general, I have a few things that I wanted to talk to you about. And one of those things is I want your opinion and I want you to share it with my girls the importance of the plastic surgeon who is operating on you to have hospital privileges. So, I like to touch on different things that come up during the week of phone calls that I have with my discovery calls when they're a lot of the women that I talk to are just getting their feet wet. They're just getting into their research phase of their journey. And I like to talk about the important things. When you're looking for your plastic surgeon, what is a crucial thing that you need to look for? And one of those things is hospital privileges. So I'd love for you to give your opinion on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I Hospital privileges are absolutely critical in my opinion. Um, and not just hospital privileges. You want to know where they're privileged as well, because if they're privileged out of state or an hour away from where you're having surgery, that may be where they try to transfer you. And in the case of an emergency, you want to go to the place, the closest place possible. And you want your surgeon to be credentialed there so that they can be the one to take care of you should they need to. I'll share a story that I happened to me early in my practice here. Um, I used to take call for the first 5 years. I took call at about 8 different hospitals in the valley here, um, and I got a phone call one night from a local hospital, and a gal had been admitted there after a fat grafting to the breasts procedure from another surgeon, and they were calling me because I was on call. And typically the courteous thing is just to find out who the surgeon is and see if they can help with this person. Like it's their patient. And when I asked that question, they said, "Well, he's not credentialed here at this hospital. So is he credentialed anywhere?" Like, no, he's not credentialed anywhere. Um, Come to find out, he wasn't even a plastic surgeon. He was actually an ENT doctor who does a lot of plastic surgery here locally. And when I went and saw this patient, she was septic, had to go to the operating room immediately. We cleaned out a bunch of gross infected fat from her breasts. And, the surgeon never, I mean, I called him and said, "Hey, I saw your patient. This is what we did. This is what happened." And he never even came and saw her in the hospital, and was when I'm in there operating on this woman, I don't know what he did, where he injected, where he harvested from, how he processed the fat. And so I'm really faced with a lot of questions. And that to me, I think, is just one example of why you really want somebody who's credentialed at a hospital, and that the hospital they're credentialed at, and they can take you there.
And also that they're actually a board certified plastic surgeon, because this
Yes,
is something we talk about on the show at almost every episode of not a cosmetic surgeon is not the same as a plastic surgeon, and even a board certified cosmetic surgeon is not the same thing as a board certified plastic surgeon. And we've talked
exactly.
about all of the differences. If you're listening right now and you have not heard the episodes where we talk about this, we're going to touch on it now, but you really need to go back, because I think there's at least 10 episodes where we really touch on this, because I'm so passionate about it. It's something that I'm very passionate about, because I've seen the complications just like what you've seen. I've seen the woman in front of me distraught because of what's happened to her, and she didn't know that the person that was doing the surgery on her is not really, I think, is not really supposed to be doing that surgery.
Well, what's interesting too is when you apply for hospital privileges, they will give you a form to fill out and say, check all of the things that you want to be able to do at this hospital. And for example, like, I can be privileged at a hospital. No hospital is going to let me perform neurosurgery because I'm not trained in neurosurgery. And that's exactly what most likely happened with this ENT. He wasn't going to be able to get privileges at this hospital to perform plastic surgery. He wasn't a trained plastic surgeon. Um, and so you want to know if they're privileged, and you also want to know what they're privileged to do at this hospital.
Absolutely. So for my girls who are listening and you're barely hearing this topic for the first time, when you're looking for your plastic surgeon, you want to make sure that they are a board certified plastic surgeon. And you can check that by going to the American Board of Medical Specialties and looking for their name. And you will find out what they're certified in. Are they a board certified plastic surgeon? Are they a general surgeon? Are they a dermatologist? Are they whatever they're certified in, you will find out. And the reason why this I'm so passionate about this is because it's all great when everything goes great, but what about when it doesn't? And you are in a critical moment, and the person that operated on you or that you are depending on to help you through this isn't trained or equipped to handle the complication that you're having, because they weren't trained as a board certified plastic surgeon. Those are the things that keep me up at night.
Absolutely.
So that was one of my things I wanted to touch on today. But I also wanted to touch on this. While I was browsing through your website, I saw that you also have your bachelor's in business administration. And we
Uh-huh.
talk about this, we've talked about this before. Plastic surgeons have come on the show and they talk about, when you are going through your training, they're not training you how to run an office, how to start a business, how to do all the back end stuff. So they're learning as they go, but you have a little bit of a head start in that by having this background.
Yeah, that is thanks to my dad. My dad had the wherewithal to encourage me to get a business education. So, uh, my parents had six kids. There is a girl, it's a Mormon family. There's a girl at each end, and then there's four boys in the middle. And I am the oldest son. Um, my dad's a very successful commercial real estate developer here in Utah, and that was always the family plan. As I was supposed to take over the family business and go into commercial real estate. And all through undergraduate, that's what I did. I got my real estate license. I worked with my dad doing commercial real estate. And when I told him I was going to medical school, he looked at me and said, "You're an idiot, and I'm not paying for that shit." He then followed it up with, "There are much better ways to make money," which he's right. Like, there are much better ways to make money. But this was my passion, this was my dream, and I'm very, very happy that I did it. And one of the things he said was, listen, if you're really going to do this, at least get a business education, because most doctors that I work with don't have a clue what they're doing when it comes to business. And after all of this training and school and work, all of a sudden they find themselves just buried under trying to run a practice and not having any clue how to do it. Um, and it's true. I mean, I have sat in monthly meetings with partners where they've passed around, profit and loss statements, and half the partners looking at it and say, "Oh, it looks great." I'm like, "No, it doesn't. we, we lost some money last month, guys. Are you serious?" And being it, just something as simple as that, like being able to read a P&L, is wildly advantageous when you are at this level. So for me, and it's not one thing, right? I run my practice. I'm an owner in my surgery center. I'm an owner in our medical spa. I have another company that is a wellness practice, and all of a sudden you're not just running a practice; you're running four, five, six different companies, and you really have to know what you're doing.
Absolutely. And you can tell by the ability of growing your business and growing your practice to having a spa, having all of those things. I always love seeing surgeons really grow, not just in their practice with patients, but in what they offer and what their offerings are for the patients. Because I, a few episodes ago, I said, I challenge us to start thinking about our plastic surgeons as anti aging centers and anti aging gurus, not just for plastic surgery, because I think there's been a big movement towards wellness, anti aging, not just surgery, you're done, you're in, you're out, but more whole, looking at the patient as a whole and how can you help.
Yeah, bringing on wellness. So we started really bringing on wellness about 4 years ago, and um, and it started with kind of recognizing that GLP-1s were not going away. They were going to be a big part of our patients' history, and really recognizing that, um, just exactly what you said. It helps me. I feel better doing it. Right? I feel like I'm treating the whole patient and not just an external issue. Um, and from a practice standpoint, it also brings in more patients. Like I have patients who just come to see me for maybe a GLP-1 or maybe some hormone replacement, and they work with me for 6 months to a year, and then all of a sudden they're like, "Hey, you know what? I need surgery, and I trust this guy, and I've worked with this guy for a while, and I'm going to go to him." And so I think it can be an excellent referral source as well for your surgical practice.
Absolutely. I totally believe that. Building trust with your patient is so important. And they're doing it anyway, so might as well be the plug for that.
Absolutely.
Another thing that I wanted to talk to you about, Dr. Howland, is while I was browsing your website, I see that you do gender reconfirmation or reaffirmation surgeries.
I don't do any bottom surgery. So you need a full center and team for that. The closest one here is the University of Utah. But I do quite a bit top surgery and a lot of body contouring and facial feminization. Um, I it's interesting. When I first came out here in 2017, one of my first patients that came to me was a transgender woman who had a breast augmentation done in Thailand, and her implants had completely bottomed out, like they were sitting on her stomach basically. And she said, "Is there anything you can do for this?" I was like, "Oh yeah, we'll take these out. We need to probably do a lift and tighten things. New implants." Gave her a whole. This is what we can do. And she started crying in my office, and I said, "Oh man, what did I say something wrong?" And she says, "No, like you don't understand. I have been to 6 surgeons. Three of them said I don't operate on your kind, and three of them said it's against my religion." Um, and I just looked at her and said, "Well, not this guy." um, I'm very happy to take care of you. And you know, I understand some surgeons' hesitancy uh, in treating those patients, and I'm not going to put anybody down for that decision. However, for me, it's I'm trained to do it, I'm equipped to do it, and it's just another person that I feel blessed and able to help.
Absolutely. I've been a coordinator. I was a coordinator for 14 years before I quit coordinating and launched my podcast. And in those 14 years, I met so many patients who were in their transformation journey. And I remember a surgeon that I worked for, who was Muslim. And the way he treated his patients with so much kindness and so much grace and so much, whatever their decision is, it's none of my business. If this is what they want, who am I to say no? And I thought all of the surgeons were like that. Really did think, oh, okay, because my personal experience has been that all of the patients that have walked through that requested these types of surgeries have been treated with kindness and open arms, just like you. Like, we can do it. Yeah, sure, let's go for it.
Mhm.
And it kind of hurts my heart to hear that she had 6 consultations and 6 no's, because that, at least in Houston, that would not be happening.
I know. I think Utah is definitely a very different culture. Um, One of the things that I tell people about um, my patients, especially my trans patients, is at the end of the day, like I will never understand them, right? I will never fully. I can. There's two types of empathy, right? There's one where you kind of try to put yourself in the person's shoes and understand how they're feeling, and anybody can do that. There's a whole other type of empathy when you actually have been where that person is and you know exactly what they're feeling, and that's a completely different level of empathy. I will never have that level of empathy for those patients because that's never been my experience. I don't know what it feels like to feel like a stranger in my own body. um, I can try to put myself in their shoes, I can do the other form of empathy, but that higher level I won't have. And so for me, it's not about understanding them. I don't think that they need or want you to understand them. I just think they want to be loved and treated like a human being. And I can do that for anybody.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And your facial feminization, how I know that's a very popular topic online that not a lot of surgeons do actually. How do you usually approach that? I guess it
Depends on
depends, right? On which.
it. It definitely depends. I would say the most common feminization procedures that I do are lowering the hairline, or feminizing the nose, or demasculinizing the chin. So typically, if somebody has like a very square masculine jaw, we'll come in and shave it down or use a small implant to give a more feminine jawline. And there are definitely some surgeons who do more invasive things for facial feminization. Um, for me, it's smaller, more subtle things like that.
Absolutely.
Buccal fat is a big one as well. That can help feminize a face.
So, Dr. Howland, before I let you go, I like to ask my surgeons, all of my surgeons, a couple of questions.
All
Number
right.
one is, are you team drains or no drains?
Oh, on tummy tucks, I'm team drains.
Ah! Whoever's keeping score, that's another one for team drains.
I will tell you this. Uh, I have seen, I've done enough drainless tummy tucks to recognize that I don't believe that they reduce the risk of seroma. I don't care how many plication sutures you put in there. I have still seen seromas happen. And so, yes, they're annoying, but they are going to prevent you from having a seroma, which is going to prevent you from having a bad outcome.
Absolutely. I think we've said that before. Just because the drain isn't there doesn't mean that the fluid can't accumulate. It still happens.
Yep.
Okay. So that was one of our questions. And this is a new one that I'm going to start asking, and you're going to be my first one because
Ooh,
there's a lot of different opinions, and I have my opinion, but I like my girls, my listeners, to hear the different surgeons' opinions, which is what are your thoughts on compression, foams, and lymphatic massages?
very good question. So, I do a lot of liposuction and a lot of contouring. I use lipofoam and compression together in the first 1 to 2 weeks. Um, After that, I'm okay with them being done with the foam, but I have patients in a compression garment for 3 months total. The first 6 weeks is around the clock, 24 hours a day. You can take it off to shower and toilet, obviously. And then once you hit the 6 week mark, you can switch to either just during the day or just at night. All of that comes in conjunction with lymphatic massage. I think the bare minimum for lymphatic massage is one every other week over that 3 month time frame. So that's 6 total. Uh, Most of my patients, though, will do a once a week lymphatic massage for 3 months after surgery. And it just makes a major difference in terms of the contour and the shape and the smoothness that I can get from the surgery.
Absolutely. I agree. I love foams. I love the compression. I love the massages. I think they all help give a really beautiful result. I know in the Facebook groups, there's always uh, different opinions on do you absolutely have to get massages? Will it affect my results? And I think the consensus is coming more to you're going to heal anyway, but the massages just make everything better.
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay. So, Dr. Howland, if my girls want to come see you, how can they find you?
Oh, yeah. So we are in Draper, Utah. A good 20 to 25% of my practice comes from out of state or out of the country. Um, Utah is, well, not a lot of people know this. Utah is a pretty big mecca for plastic surgery. At one point, Utah was like number 2 in the country for plastic surgery per capita. And it's always somewhere in the top 10. Um, and the reason for that is we have a lot of really good surgeons here, but the pricing here is also very, very reasonable. So a lot of patients can come from places like California and New York, stay here for a week, have their surgery, and still end up paying less than they would have at home. And so pricing here is excellent. The surgeons are excellent. The best way to get in touch with me is just DM me on my Instagram handle at Dr. Nicholas Howland. I manage that myself, so there's nobody else managing the DMs on that Instagram handle. And I will put you in touch with my patient coordinator, and she'll get you in sooner than you would get in if you just called the front desk.
It's like you're coming in through the back door.
Exactly.
I love to hear that. I appreciate you so much for being on the show with us today, and I hope I can have you back soon.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Mavi. I'm glad we got to finally do it.
We finally got to do it. And with that, you guys, I'll see y'all next week. With that, you guys, I'll see you next week. Thanks for watching Big Butts No Lies podcast. I make every single episode with so much love for you, and I really hope you enjoy it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and set your alarms for for you to get notified when I release new episodes. And if you're on your plastic surgery journey and you don't know where to start, or you just want some guidance, contact me at mavi@bigbuttsnolies.com. Here.